Broadcasting live, this is the Handicappers Report, brought to you by the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany, and CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I am Anthony Mormino. I was a little late this morning because my car went north up the Northway. I thought it was Saratoga. I must be doing Saratoga based on the weather the last 3 days. I mean, tremendous April weather. So actually I did.
Record-breaking.
Yes, I did actually drag our son who's on vacation, wrapping up. I dragged him up to the surrender site at the Saratoga battlefield, which is demonstratively not near where the battle is. You have to make it's a separate, it's not the same place. So now he's been at the beginning, the end, and the middle of the two major wars our country, the Revolution and Civil War. But he was actually fine with it. He's gotten older now. Of course, he's 16, so he drove up. He got tired. He asked me to drive back, but he drove up to it. But it was like summer. It was tremendous yesterday, and good for us.
I know you're a golfer. I'm assuming you've been out already, right?
Yes, and the grass grass is no longer dormant. It's growing.
I walk in the Saratoga Park a lot, and you go by the holes of the golf course up there in the last few days.
There are
plenty of people out there.
Golfers are zealots, certainly in the beginning of the year, because most of us have been cooped up and just can't wait to play. But I mean, high 80s, which is remarkable for April. I think the record they broke was I was in 8th grade. It was like Seattle Slews year. I mean, that's a long time ago, but stunning weather. It's beautiful out this morning. I don't know what it's looking like today, but
kind of the last
of it. I mean, what a great hurrah in today's last.
But we're on the right.
Oh, this is it. I always say to people, I mean, it's
as you say, the grass and also the buds are starting to pop on the trees, and once that happens, boy, it goes from dead winter look to green leaves all over the place quickly.
I tell people, especially visitors or such, from these next 7 months are just really beautiful. Here, we paid the price, even though I think I only had to shovel twice this year. But there was one Saturday I came in here, it was unbelievably cold. Today was unbelievably beautiful. But
speaking of Saratoga, I'm not sure if it's open yet. If it's not, it's the next few days the Oklahoma kicks into action.
I saw that. Was it? I would think today, right? The 15th.
That
Saturday,
right,
a Saturday makes sense. And that's always kind of been a thing, where you really start to see more horses around here. Bill Mott, isn't he usually a Oklahoma guy?
Yeah, because I think his son Riley, when he was the assistant, I think was up here a lot.
And they would van down to Belmont for racing. Heck, Belmont will be opening in a couple of weeks, and
Riley Mott, who's having a pretty good season down at Oklahoma, as is Norm Cassie, who went out on his own as well.
Yeah. So what are they doing at Belmont? The work isn't done, right? They're gonna. Right. The next fall, they're only running the spring meet, right? Next fall will be at Aqueduct again, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, obviously they're letting patrons in, but my guess is they won't work during their horse racing, but that's really odd, don't you think? Like, are you done? But apparently they're not done.
But then, the refurbishment or redevelopment is still waiting for the budget that was supposed to be done at the end of March to be decided. It looks like it's thumbs up on that, but until the budget, the gavel comes down, you don't know. But then that will present
that's the grandstand, right? They're going to blow it up, right?
Yeah, I would think that will also send racing in other directions while that goes on.
You would.
And I would guess that maybe an extended part of Saratoga.
Didn't they run at Calder for like 3 when they called it Gulfstream Park West? They told people not to come, and they just basically knocked it down.
And they had a tent there for a while.
We had that rough sight lines, camera lines for the racing as it was going away. So we'll see that, but it's spring. I mean, it's definitely spring/summer. Beautiful weather. 11 races at Keeneland. 9 in New York last couple days of Aqueduct. Twitter was all a buzz yesterday because this is how racing has changed. Not so much that Modern Games lost, but that Shea Pierre went into the gate at 25-1 and finished up at 9-1. And our friend Craig Milkowski was one of those bettors. And, it's a grade 1 race. It's, and it seems as if these last 2 months, and I don't know if it was just the article in the Financial Times, but this has become a huge thing. I mean, we used to talk about it in New York 7-8 years ago. But so here you had an example yesterday where, and people on Twitter were just like, Craig was like, I can't care anymore. He goes, and I kind of laughed because I'm like, apparently they don't play the trifectas, so I'm good. But, and I doubt we'll hear a whisper from anybody about it. It'll just be the customers complaining and no one will. But if you missed it, Shea Pierre was dynamic yesterday in the Maker's Mark Mile. I mean, Modern Games couldn't have beat him on his best day yesterday. I actually thought Modern Games race was okay, but we saw a superstar performance that, the rails were down, so I tend to believe the teletimer. Modern Games would have had to come home in about 20 seconds.
Yeah, it was a stakes record and just missed the course record by half a second.
I mean, just brilliant performance, but maybe just overshadowed in my mind's eye by, 25 down to 9 is about as dramatic as I've ever seen. Now, the one question I would have, and I didn't do this because it was so nice, is if Shea Pierre was much lower in doubles or
That's
tries.
Actually an interesting question.
Because to me, this is one thing that I've reoriented my thinking as a function of pick 4s, pick 5s. People talk about the parlay versus the payout. I don't use that anymore. I use the morning line, especially if I trust the morning line, because people betting forward only have the morning line. And ironically, it was a Bill Mott horse years ago at Saratoga, paid about $30 to win, but was like 5-1 on the morning line. And when I recalibrated figures using the morning line, it seemed to be more in line. But what Shea Pierre was, how close was he to Modern Games in the horizontals, would tell me more. Because if he was closer, I would have thought that the 25-1 is going to come down. But I don't have that data. And that's what I think I'd want to see. Now, if there was tremendous separation, then you would know the computers just bet him to win. They waited to the last minute. And this is where I'd really like to see Pat Cummings work, where they get the information and they show how much was bet. Because the Keeneland pool is substantial.
Yeah.
And for you to crush it like that is intriguing to me. But I would want to have known what the probables were in the horizontals. If he was closer to, say, 10-1 than he was 30-1.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the actual double payout for a buck was 42. So you had, a $20 horse. And in the last race, Bourbon Resolve, who I mentioned yesterday with local connections, congratulations to them, at $6. So I don't think that was wildly out of whack to the
It's not. It's in line.
Odds. And the exacta with Shea Pierre over Modern Games, 9-1 over 2-5 was $44 for 2. So
that's where people go, well, I was looking at $52 for the winner. So I'm hoping. Now, Pat Cummings did not chime on last night. I mean, it would take him a while to get the data anyways, but it's just one of the things that it seems to have gotten so much headway in the last 8 weeks or such. And I thought it's been in play for like 10 years.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
that article did certainly generate conversation, no question about it. And I think the numbers they talk, people may have been aware of it, particularly the everyday fan. Like you and I are maybe more clued in. The everyday fan may have been aware of it, but then you take a look at some of the numbers tossed out in that article, and I think it was like, wow.
And on that note, I think our friend Tony Kalo tweeted out that Finger Lakes is going to go back to the traditional pick six. That I think 2 jurisdictions have dropped the jackpot pick six. I think I still call Indiana Grand. Horseshoe, I'm pretty sure I saw a tweet from John Dooley, and Finger Lakes, I think, have gone back to the traditional. Now, I will say Finger Lakes, I think Tony Kalo also pointed out, see, in my mind's eye, the traditional pick six was also a $2 bet. It's a $1 bet. So I think, and I have to believe that is a direct fallout from the article. I mean,
that's a part of the whole conversation, and that part of the conversation, I'm not sure I'm totally buying into the jackpot bet. I get the argument that's made, and I don't have a case against that really, but there are a couple of things. First of all, that jackpot bet is really only it only really works down a Gulfstream for some reason. I mean, the traditional pick six really at the end only worked out in California too. There are some venues where bets take hold, and this is taking hold there. I used to play that, and the people against it are like, it winds up being the way it's structured, a large takeout bet. I would jump in going back.
Large was kind.
Yeah, going back a few years, if it got up to about $500,000, and I'd put a little ticket together, and I could pull down maybe $800 or $1,200 with the consolation. So for me, I was only playing occasionally, and I'm turning 40 maybe into 800. So for me, it worked.
And we had, I wanted to show, we had discussed that at those times that there was 2 paths to go down, because there's no way the $800 ticket is going to win the jackpot.
Oh, right.
There was like, we talked about it in real time, that you are not chasing the jackpot because you're going to have low-priced horses on it. Like, this ticket is not chasing the jackpot. This ticket is chasing $800. And then the other ones could chase the jackpot, which I always thought, by the way, was very interesting about the bet. It's like, I'm not trying to win the bet. I'm trying to win the console.
Yeah. Like I say, it was at a point where, first of all, it took a long time to get to $500,000. Now it gets back to $500,000 in like 3 days.
Yeah.
But also, it just seems like the structure of it has changed. To me, it's become harder to even hit those consoles. So I haven't played.
Well, do you think that is because of the infusion?
Maybe
they've wiped out the console. They buy so. I've said this before, and I was taught this in 1989 when many of our viewers probably won't remember it, but the first time Gulfstream Park held the Breeders' Cup, the Sunday Silence Easy Goer year, Calder was open. They ran a special 3-day meet, and the action on the non-Breeders' Cup day, a friend of mine who was a pick six player, really from the word get-go, he loved it because so many bases weren't covered. And, he was a big player. And, that was his edge. His edge was that I might not win, but nobody's winning this. It's, the console is going to pay. So
I do totally agree, though, with, and again, after the Financial Times article, Steve Bick had a couple of radio shows where they were talking a lot about these issues that we're going back and listening to from a couple weeks back. But
they are exciting.
One of the topics that he brought up, I think with Maury, but it was when Gulfstream now gets to the mandatory day, they have a skullbuster of a card. It's impossible. So they're playing now. That's where I go against. The little guys are putting all the money in, and then you shun them to the side on that last day. You can't, and that I agree with. Now, I get the business decision. Make it, don't change it up and have 6 huge skullbuster fields, but just have an average day and something that maybe somebody can put a ticket. To me, that's a better PR move to have, 1,000 people walk away with $2,500 and they're talking about, hey, it was a great day for me, as opposed to 10 people walking away with, $800,000. To me, it's better. The money's going to go back into the game. But if
Well,
they do it,
apparently the groups winning them, the money does go back in the game.
Well,
they're not walking away from it. They're not taking it away.
And also, the fact of the matter is, they're the guys, the accountants at the racetrack, who are saying, well, with these big fields, we're going to get $8 million. With your fields, we're going to get $6 million. Both sound great to me, but if you're the accountant, it's like, well, that's $2 million. And we're not giving that up.
No, so, I mean, it's interesting, and I think that I'm right that Horseshoe Indiana and Finger Lakes is going to the traditional pick 6. I'll tell you one thing, just one quick thing before we get to Keeneland's 11 race card on Lexington Day. I'd be interested to, it might be hard to do, is why certain bets work in certain places. Like
I cannot figure that out.
Like if you talk to people,
I mean, would you agree that the rainbow in Gulfstream is completely different than anywhere else?
Yes. I'd be interested because, like the people would say, like, whether it's pool size or whatever, like it can't be that cultural. We're all in the United States, but it's like, you're absolutely right. The pick 6 has always worked in California, et cetera. But we'll see. But I think that that's accurate.
No, I have never been able to figure that out, though. It's just strange. If people like it over here, why don't you like it over here? It's just.
Well, here's one for you. Talking about a slide. I no longer hear any discussion in New York, except that you want 50-cent pick 3s in New York, about the pick 3 or pick 4. They're like the redheaded stepchild. Apparently, this pick 5 killed both of them and killed the pick 6. How did that happen? Is it the $1? I don't know what it is, but it became the bet in New York. All right, you ready for the Lexington?
I will toss in just to wrap it up. Interesting bet, and I've been talking about it the last few days, just kind of alerting people it's coming up. That $3 all-turf pick 3 at Keeneland was an interesting addition. I have not played it, but I'd be interested to talk to people who maybe are jumping in on it.
And one final thing, because I was watching last week, and only because he's running today, when Patrick the Great won the opener last week, I knew I was going to be good, but I have never, I shouldn't say that. It was the most anticipated mutual payoff on a 5-2 shot I had ever had, because for 32 minutes, I was plus $1. I was plus $1
because you were talking
about
it.
I was like, for a brief moment, after 11 months and a day, I was ahead when he got me out of the $4.40 red. I think he paid $7.60. So for about 30 minutes, I was plus $3, and I
might even mention it on the.
I was at home,
and immediately it was like, I just shot him.
My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "It would take too long to explain, honey." But so we'll see. I still have a couple weeks, but I finished.
I thought you mentioned it was like 4 or 5 or 6 down.
Yeah, 440 behind.
Like,
he got me
nice
up and over, but I slid back farther, so we're still chasing. All right, we're gonna do Keeneland first with their card. I think this is officially the last race, right, for a 3-year-old to.
Yeah, 20
there's
points
no more
to the
points.
winner, and I think I was looking earlier, and I think there's Disarm. I think is kind of the only horse, the only horse that maybe make a difference.
Great card yesterday, including Modern Games. He'll probably be sharp the next time, but not as sharp as Shea Pierre was. All right, the opener, we're gonna have 3-year-olds and up, maiden special weights on the dirt, racing a mile and 16.
6, 3, 7, and 2 for me. I'm going to put Braggadocious on top at a price because Gun Runner, obviously a sire of win early types. There's a sibling to this one, though, from the bottom side, from the dam. Bravazzo, 8th in debut, won the second start overall. Bravazzo, 22 starts, 3 wins, 4 seconds, 3 thirds, $2.8 million. In 2018, won the Risen Star, was second in the Preakness. The other siblings are not necessarily win early, but I thought Gun Runner on top, and some of the workouts are okay. 12-1. I'll take a little shot. Braggadocious on top. Oglethorpe, 3 starts so far for Danny Gargan, and of those that have started.
You know what that's from, don't you?
Oglethorpe? No. Oglethorpe.
It just dawned on me when you said it.
No.
Slapshot. Ogie Oglethorpe
Oh,
when they get all the convicts out of jail for the last
Okay,
game.
all right.
Ogie Oglethorpe,
Yeah, I have not.
outstanding.
That's one I got to see if it's streaming. There is one I haven't watched in probably since it was first in the theaters. Um,
I'd love to meet the owners.
There's a sibling called Inside Job that won its career debut, albeit at Will Rogers Downs, but it was a win early type. This one hasn't quite lived up to that yet, but gets back to the dirt. I think, as again, of those that have run, is tossing the best numbers. So this horse will take some action, probably deservedly so. Third spot, I'll use Magical Power. There's a sibling called Kaboo that took a few starts to win, but then ripped off 3 wins. Ran 6th, 3rd, 10th, and then 3 straight wins. They were all in sprints, however, but Todd Pletcher can have them ready to go when they stretch out like this. And off the debut effort, this horse is likely to take plenty of action as well. But I'll take a little bit of a swing in the opener, 6-3, 7-2.
He was the guy, I think, with the big redheaded afro. I think that was Ogie Oglethorpe, who just had gotten out of jail or something. And what was it, Will Rogers? Will Rogers and Fauner Park, right, with the 2 tracks.
Yeah.
I do plan to someday go there because of that, to pay homage, I guess.
That's right.
To them.
Thanks for keeping us going.
Yes, alive and something going. On to the second race. Phillies and Merrow's maiden claimers in for 50, going 6.
7, 2, 4, and 6 for me. Another big price in here, but I don't see, and I'm not sure this price will hold. But Ian Wilkes,
even when the gate opens,
having a decent little meet. And this one comes in again. Of those with experience, I think the experience for this one is okay, but it was also last year as a 2-year-old. And I've said it before, horses like this get a little bit of a break. They come back as the 3-year-old. Maybe they come back improved. We're seeing Lasix for the first time. Again, I'm not sure that morning line will hold up, but I'll take the price because this is not a field of world beaters. Zip and Pippin, buyer numbers are progressing very nicely. A couple down at the fairgrounds and then one at Oaklawn, and they've been moving in the right direction. Could be prime now and also gets back in for a tag this afternoon. And then Bingo Star, first time started by Cantheros. If you watch enough, I like Cantheros on, for win early types, certainly. Workouts aren't really jumping off the page. But as I said earlier, this is not a field of world beaters. So I think you can play around in here a little bit. I could point to 3 others that probably have the same level of confidence with. But in the second at Keeneland, 7, 2, 4, and 6.
And I know they're going to make it, but have you been keeping up to date on the paddock at Churchill Downs?
No.
I mean, clearly they're going to make it, but it's like they're not close under most construction things, but they're so they built a paddock for 2 races.
For those of us on the press side who have access to Saratoga before opening day, that's a similar situation there. You walk around there, and about a week before, people are painting and everything, and about 3 days before, people are painting, and about 12 hours before opening, people are painting and everything, and somehow it gets done.
Yeah, I mean, this is substantial, but I'm like, it does look beautiful when it's done, but oh my goodness. Third race on the card gets us to the turf. The rails were down yesterday. The Daily Race Reform is reporting the rails still down $120,000 at 2X at 1 mile and a 16.
3, 2, 5, and 6 for me. I'm going to put James Aloysius on top. Danny Gargan again. This one comes in off 3 well-placed starts. So obviously there have been some issues with this horse. 2021, 2022, now 2023, but gets to string a couple together. And the last 2 have been wins. April of 2022 gets a win to break the maiden, and then comes back in March of this year and gets a win to go through the first level. It just seems to be a horse that has some talent, but some issues. But as I say, now strings a couple together. That's probably a good sign. Vivar in the second spot, coming in from Turfway. I've been saying it for the last few days in the afternoon. The Turfway horses have been very interesting. Unfortunately, there may be 3 or 4 of them in the race, and I tend to go in the wrong direction for the Turfway horses. But this one, I think, with Jose Ortiz named on board, becomes a little bit interesting off the first couple of starts at Turfway this season. And Common Bond coming in for Eric Reed, who has I think Derby weekend is going to be the kickoff for Rich Strike, if I read correctly in the racing form. But this one coming in from Turfway on the synthetic, again, I think could be a little bit interesting, coming over to Keeneland and trying the grass this afternoon, potentially at a price in the third, 3, 2, 5, and 6.
On to the fourth. Claimers in for 30,000, 6.5 on the dirt.
4, 7, 6, and 1. I'm going to put Magnolia Midnight on top for our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds. Dallas Stewart, third start of the season after a couple of tries at the fairgrounds. I thought they were okay tries to build a foundation on, and always that third start back, you think maybe there's a little more improvement, and if that happens off the first two, and you toss in a little touch of class relief as well, may help move the horse forward in the third start back. Raylu Gutierrez on board. Implementation. Oh, speaking of Raylu, there was a nice article. Geez, where did I see it? Because I actually tweeted to Kevin Kilroy, wrote it from Fairgrounds, that kind of gives the relationship between Raylu and his agent, the son of Jose Santos. And maybe it was in the Blood Horse, but if you check out Kevin Kilroy's Twitter feed, he links to it. But it was a really nice article because Jose Santos' son, the agent, is now kind of changing the game for agents, as he has a bunch of jockeys around the country that he really just works the phone with and makes relationships and whatnot. But Raylu, with the meet leading, meet title at the fairgrounds, kind of brought everything together. But we'll use Magnolia Midnight on top. Implementation in the second spot. Wesley Ward, trainee, gets a class drop on the return. Hasn't been seen since October. That doesn't thrill me, but again, probably getting a little bit realistic with this one, coming off a win at 50,000 to end the season last year, and comes in with a decent little workout. Come on, man! In the third spot, claim 2 back by Jonathan Wong, out at his base in Southern California, but he has been moving east over the past season and a half or so. And this one, in the first start off the claim, it was okay, but now drops down the claiming ladder from that try and should fit nicely with this group. In the fourth at Keeneland, 4, 7, 6, and 1.
You said Dallas Stewart, who is, as of my download, 6 for 57. I would bet a case of Pepsi he is in the plus for the ROI.
Oh, well.
He had I think on Louisiana Derby Day, I think he had the $95 winner, the maiden. So he is having a good year. On to the fifth, back to the turf, only running for 110,000 when it's 1X for 3-year-olds, going up 9 furlongs.
Competitive bunch in here. I went 8, 4, 6, and 5. I put Clever Thought on top for Todd Pletcher. I Rod Ortiz on board, broke the maiden in the second start last time. That was a move to the turf, so has shown an affinity for it. Probably has to step it up a little bit points-wise, but the last race is going to put this horse right in the thick of things, you would think. The better points on the page here on the PPs aren't that much further ahead. But again, I think probably a step forward is probably required and probably likely too, being lightly raced like this. So Rapoli, Phipps, that's interesting. Rapoli, Phipps, St. Elias in on this one. The Pletcher runner, we'll look for that one to get it done in the third career start in this first try against limited winners. Emperor's Angel tried the turf last time, little turf experiment, ran okay, but ran third. But it was a much improved buyer number, and the buyer that matches up very nicely with the top pick. So again, it seems like they made the right move. Has the look, being the fourth career start, of a little bit of an experiment, but seems like a successful experiment. Baby Billy in the third spot, in from trying the Jeff Ruby stake last time on the synthetic at Turfway. Didn't fare very well there, but off the maiden breaker 2 back, the first try on the turf, I think this one is a player as well. So again, a competitive bunch. Another race where I could point to probably in here maybe 6 more where I would have equal confidence. Yeah. It's a very competitive.
I like First Strike, who is going to be a gigantic price. I am guessing here is the first foal of Strike Charmer, who I think our colleague Mike Callahan had her the day she paid about $56 and beat Lady Eli in the Boston Spa about 6-7 years ago. So I'm thinking this might be her first foal, and I think she's big in here just off her debut, the only try on turf. I like her first strike. I mean, what a race for your Keeneland turf pick 3. Good luck, everybody. It's they're not giving the money away. On to the 6th race. We have 3-year-old fillies maiden special weights on the dirt going 6.
7, 9, 2, and 10. Number 7, oldest sister. Vicky Oliver trainee, and I always find her interesting when she's entered down in Kentucky. This one, I think, was in kind of a salty debut effort at Tampa. You know, was kind of up in the thick of things before fading a little bit late, but in a field of 11, went off at 6-1. So took a little action there. There was a sibling called Sarcastic Tone that won the career debut and won 4 of the first 6. There was another sibling called How Ironic that won its career debut. So I think there's some win early here. And with one under the belt, and again, having taken a little bit of action, maybe most importantly, off of the, the well-beaten 5th place finish down at Tampa, Luis Saez elects to stick in here. So oldest sister on top for me. Cilia in the 2nd slot. Tap it on top, closed hatches underneath. Closed hatches, if you may remember, up here in Saratoga, amongst many other stakes she won. She won the 2014 Personal Ensign, 9 wins and 14 career starts for the dam. She has also produced some very nice runners as well. So I would expect this horse with that breeding, Bill Mott trainee, Judd Mott, to take plenty of action and be live in the debut. And then Nikki MP going out for Brendan Walsh. Debut was okay. One to build on and maybe move forward from. So I'll toss that one into the mix as well. In the 6th, 7, 9, 2, and 10.
What was Close Hatch's biggest win, though?
Biggest, I don't know. I was looking at the
neither
record.
Of those.
I was looking at the record, and I don't.
It's quite an impressive record.
Oh, very impressive.
But the first year they ran the Ogden Phipps on the undercard of the Belmont, and they ran it for $1 million. She beat Beholder.
Oh, okay.
Beholder ran 4th that day. Now only beating the length for all the money. Beholder was the chalk coming east. And I think in Beholder's entire career, she only finished off the board twice. And Close Hatches beating her in the Phipps. And I'm very sure that was the first time they ran it for $1 million. But Close Hatches was very sharp for a while there. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, more from Keeneland. She was good, boy.
Yeah.
She was like.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Having trouble finding us? It's actually quite simple. Whether online or on your TV, it's never been easier to watch and wager on championship horse racing with Capital OTB. Simply log on to capitalotbbet.com. There you can watch our morning shows, live stream races, and wager on our state-of-the-art wagering platform. You can also watch from the comfort of your home on Spectrum Cable Channel 1250 or Fios Channel 467 and win more with Capital OTB.
Ladies and gentlemen, alongside Seth Merrow, I am Anthony Mormino. We're midway through the 11-race card at Keeneland, race number 7. Entry-level allowance on the dirt going 1 mile and 16.
4, 1, 2, 3, Principe d'Oro on top for Todd Pletcher. 3 starts, and like the horse I talked about earlier, 3 well-placed starts. So there's been some issues, but now kind of strings a couple together. I mean, the lone start this year was February 25th, so we're sitting on the better part of 2 months on the sidelines, but that is, separated from what we've seen so far in the career. And what we've seen so far, again, there have been some stops and starts, but so far been pretty good. Broke the maiden two back, got some experience that the non-winners have won last time, should benefit from that. Tries the 2 turns today, but could be a little bit intriguing on that aspect as well from Todd Pletcher. Barber Road in the second slot. Kind of got back on track last time with the second place finish down at Oaklawn. Beaten as the favorite, but well ahead of the third place finisher in there. And again, I would think that would have moved this horse into a spot that is, kind of reminiscent of maybe some of the talent earlier in the career.
He was my Derby pick.
Oh, really?
Yeah. 60-1.
Again,
he ran great.
Yeah, certainly the second in the Arkansas Derby kind of tabbed him as one to watch. And then subsequently, the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont 6th and 7th. As you say, 6th in a huge field by 4 lengths. It was a good effort, but hasn't had a win going back to.
He was the only one behind
on the page.
He's the only one behind Rich Strike.
So again, I think that last race moved him into the right direction, and we'll toss him into the mix. And then Graphic Detail, another one of those that I find intriguing coming over from Turfway. Part of the Turfway allure for me here at Keeneland is I think they tend to get overlooked a little bit, but run well, and therefore at prices. I don't think this one's going to be much of a price, but may offer a touch of value. In the 7th at Keeneland, 4, 1, 2, and 3.
I tell you what Brian with Natos said to me. We were on the phone talking about it, and you know what he said? Of course you do. He was just like, nobody I've ever talked to has mentioned this horse. He's your top pick. He's not in the mix. You like him to win. On to the 8th race, 5.5 furlongs, turf sprint, the Giants Causeway.
4, 5, 10, 12, Overe on top. Plenty of early positional speed. Comes in off some stake strides down at the fairgrounds. And as I say, was in the hunt, either leading or just there in all of those, and won all of those. And then going back to Hawthorne last fall, this horse coming off a 4-race win streak. Going to be interested to see how the odds shake out in this race, because I think it's another really competitive race. Amy C in the second spot brings in a 2-race win streak from Southern California last October and again in January. So a little bit of a layoff, but seems to be working well for this move from Southern California to Keeneland this afternoon. And then Twilight Gleaming, a Wesley Ward runner who comes in not being seen since October at Keeneland, where the horse kind of tossed in a little bit of a clump. Well, I mean, it was in the mix before fading a little bit to be beaten running fourth behind Caravel. So this is the seasonal debut. But that fourth to Caravel was the only off-the-board finish, only out of the exacta finish in 9 starts for Twilight Gleaming. So I would expect a good performance again today on the seasonal debut in the 8th at Keeneland, 4, 5, 10, and 12.
On to the 9th race, mile 16th on the dirt, 3-year-olds in the Lexington.
And, we mentioned earlier, Disarm, is really the only horse that has the potential to get points that will make a difference and move the horse potentially into the Kentucky Derby starting gate. That said, fun field of 11 in here. I have a 3, 6, 5, and 8. I'm going to put Demolition Duke on top for Brad Cox. Broke the maiden in the debut. The follow-up was a good close-up second-place finish, both down at the fairgrounds. And again, the second start, that close-up second-place finish was the first time around 2 turns. So with that experience under the belt, third start, we'll look for Demolition Duke to run well this afternoon. Disarm, I'll put in the second slot. Again, chasing potentially some Derby starting gate points, having run second in Louisiana Derby to get enough to be just below the cutoff line currently, and ran second to Kings Barnes, who looks to be a talented runner for Todd Pletcher. But overall, lightly raced and should be primed for a good effort this afternoon. First Mission, like the top pick, a third-time starter for Brad Cox off a couple of nice tries down at the fairgrounds, and a couple of tries that I think have this one set up to be a competitor in the third start of the career. Empire Strikes Fast for Bill Mott. off a debut win down at Gulfstream, but with a 92 buyer is going to be interesting because it's always hard to know one race, how much do we believe that buyer figure, but a 92 is going to be very competitive in here. Maybe makes that one the one to beat. Arabian Lion I didn't use. It's a Bob Baffert horse running in the Bob Baffert name, so clearly they aren't chasing any points. But talented, certainly. I just hung outside. I'm not sure talented enough given the post position. So I shied away from that one a little bit. But I'm 3, 6, 5, and 8.
I don't think people thought Arabian Lion would be here after that debut.
No, you're absolutely right. But the subsequent couple of starts, particularly the future.
As I say, that's why I like horses that get like a 78 to an 83 debut. Until they run the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, this might be the best Filly and Mare Turf race in America. The Grade 1 Jenny Wiley.
2, 5, 3, and 6 in Italian. Ran second in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf in the most recent start. Obviously, that was last November. But prior to that, October at Keeneland, won the First Lady, did it on the front end, did it pretty convincingly. I'm going back to that as, a solid performance on this course. Seasonal debut for Chad Brown, but this horse rarely fires a bad shot. Really never fires a bad shot, but it does have a third-place finish on the resume. With the Moonlight, Charles Appleby runner, the last seen in a couple of starts over in Dubai that were pretty good. So we'll see if Appleby can get back in the winner's circle here. I would assume he's probably sticking around for this race because he was here yesterday for Modern Games. And then Queen Goddess, having come out of a win in the Pegasus Filly and Mare Turf. The last couple have looked very good, and the latest at Pegasus was 100 buyers. So also interesting. This, as you said, very intriguing field in here. 2, 5, 3, and 6.
And wrapping it up, optional claimers, only one's in for the tag. 2X going 6.5.
6, 12, 2, and 8 up with Current Climate on top. Another price for me on the card. This one coming in from Turfway, first off the claim win, and did it with a much improved buyer figure. Now, because of that, again, I'm not sure we're going to get the price, but off of that win at Turfway, if the price does float up to a attractive area, I think the horse is very playable. Second slot, Tarabi on the outside. The Cherie DeVoe runner has run well throughout the career, and I think will be solid in here again today. And Top Gun Girl for a Wesley Ward out of a nice win to end the season last year. That kind of, I would think, bodes well for the return as a 4-year-old. In the 11th and final at Keeneland, 6, 12, 2, and 8.
And we'll take our final break. When we come back, 9 from the Big A.
Birdstone is an outside. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Falbrough. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Seth Merrow, Anthony Mormino. I just took a look at Keeneland. If you missed any of that, as always, I have to remind people to swing by the website and pick up the one sheet on most racing days, capitalotv.com. Click on the handicapping link at the top of the page, and you can get, as I say, selections on most days with a nice printable PDF. Also, for folks who are watching, I know a lot of people do, because over the last few months, we've gotten a great number on the YouTube channel. And if folks happen to be watching on YouTube, we should remind people, hit the subscribe button and the like button, because that then helps move us up the search engine and whatnot, and spreads the word and alerts us to even more people. So if you do happen to be watching on YouTube, click subscribe and like. And all right, let's jump in. Aqueduct's opener for today: state bred allowance runners, non-winners of one, scheduled on the grass at 6 furlongs.
When young Anthony was very young, he found me on Twitter, and all he could comment was, "Not everybody's too thrilled by your picks, Dad." I'm like, not that my father's on YouTube, but that, so 4-8-1 in the opener. I have slid back to just inside of negative $14 for the 11 and a half months. So I am, I'm playing it straight. I'm trying to get there. So 4-8-1, Be of Courage is my top pick here. We're going to get Lasix with a 3-year-old debut. Haven't run since November. Good second career start at Aqueduct, sprinting on the turf. We're doing the same today for John Pregman. For second, number 8, Sandrone, going out for Jimmy Bond. Also should note that he is on the outside for the turf runners. The rest are MTOs, making the seasonal debut. Been at this level for a couple of races. And for third, from the rail, Con Man, who's 2-1, making the second stop of the year for Mark Cassie. This is the horse to beat. I mean, this is breaks from the inside, ran well in 2-year-old turf stakes races, and has this Gulfstream Park race under the belt. The race clearly goes through Conman, but I am 4-8-1 in the Big A's opener.
Going on YouTube, though, I do think it's great. I mean, it used to be that you had to have a cable connection here in the upstate area, but these days, people can watch the morning shows via capitalotv.com. They're streamed on our website, but over on YouTube, that means people can watch it anywhere. So it kind of expands.
It's a great world.
Expands the audience. Second race at Aqueduct this afternoon. Optional claimer, non-winners of 1, 3/4 mile.
What's funny about this is it did not matter the jurisdiction, but when they ran these 3-year-old restrictive ones, the optional price used to always be $80,000. It didn't matter if it was Kentucky, if it was California, New York. It's down to 62, but nobody's running for the tag. This is an entry-level allowance, as it turns out, folks. 5-4-2. Heldish is my top pick. Mike Makers, runner, 2 starts since the middle part of November. The second one was a marked improvement. That was in the slop. The offspring of Great Notion, though, has shown good early speed. Could be very beneficial today. For second, 7-5 in your heart. Toxic Gray, Mike Michelle's runner on a 2-race winning streak. And for third, the 2-1 second choice, Looms Boldly. One of my favorite sayings in the game. The New York bred comes out of the victory in the Damon Runyon for the very powerful Brad Cox barn. Manny Franco's been the regular rider all along. It's an intriguing race to me because there's 2 horses that are going to be short in here, but I had to go outside here. So 5-4-2. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't like Mormon Road. One thing that I think has stuck out to me, and it stands up, I do not trust the numbers, the Beyer speed figures in the slop to stand up on the dirt. I think they're, and I have.
Isn't your bar graph though working currently for Rob Atras?
He's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. This group of guys and gals who are just seasonal. It's not even really seasonal. It's bi-weekly or something like that. That make up a new word. They have 2-week stretches, and not too many of them they don't span a whole month. It's really like 2 weeks. And we don't have 6 days a week racing. So it's really like 8 days. They're just like through the roof. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
I will say Looms Boldly, named for Pete Fornatal. That's his Twitter handle. And this one's owned by Marshall Graham, who's a friend of Pete's. 10 straight racing is Marshall Graham. So
I have to ask you, because I couldn't think off the top of my head what racetrack announcer used that often. That was his move. Lose boldly on the outside.
Third race this afternoon, stakes action. The Dangers.
He's been to Wimbledon.
Oh, well, I know he goes over because he actually does some work with Sky Sports.
Does he?
Yeah,
that's the big one.
Danger's Hour, $100,000 up for grabs, a mile on the grass.
Boy, if you don't remember Danger's Hour, that was a Mac Miller runner winning, the old, what used to be the old 3-year-old series that you must have liked as a younger man when they used to have the Saranac, the Hill Prince, and the Lexington, Naira's Lexington. And he also won the Manhattan, the Lawrence Realization. He was a major player. 5-3-6 for the stakes race today. And Celestial City gets my top pick. 4, Shug McGahee, making the first start of the year, went over to California for the Hollywood Derby after winning the Hill Prince, which used to be a springtime event and now is an autumn event. You remember when it was the Daily Double into the Belmont?
No.
The Hill Prince Belmont Daily Double. That was a couple of years they did that. But Celestial City, my top pick here.
Oh, was it the day before?
Yeah.
Yeah,
on Friday. Yeah. And so 2 for 2 at Aqueduct tries to make it the turkey trifecta. For a second, Big Everest, odds on 4 to 5 on the morning line. According to the buyer speed figure, is lengths better than my guy. Makes the seasonal debut coming out of a victory in the Artie Schiller. And for third, number 6, Cool House going out for Paulo Lobo. 2 races back, 1 sprinting on the artificial, or I should say the Tapeta at Turfway. That was the first start since June. 5-3-6 in the Danger's Hour. Quick note, the 7 Berber Calling is a MTO. It's only a 6-horse turf field.
Race conditions, LASIK's not permitted. Have you seen, you check out social media too.
The hubbub?
Have you seen anybody who has parsed out?
No.
When horses go from LASIK, I would love to kind of see some. I'm sure somebody
people are starting to go crazy
numbers.
About this thing, this on again, off again thing.
4th race at Aqueduct, lower level conditional claimers. 1 mile is the distance.
And Patrick the Great is in here, but he's in third for me. No sentimentality here. 2, 3, 6. Sight unseen for Rudy. Claimed this horse for $14,000 from Mark Henning. 2 races back in the 2L, scored. This is the right level. I'm hoping this is the right spot. For second, Bingo John. Jeremiah Engelhardt, over 30%, first off the claim. Claimed this horse for $10,000 in the last start. And for third, Patrick the Great, who got us into the black, if only for 30 minutes last week, going out for Linda Rice. I will say this about his race last time. It could not have been made any easier by the competition. They just let him get on the front, loaf along, and that's why it looked so impressive. He extended because he wasn't extended early.
And I think coming back in a week says that.
Yes, he's like, okay, I'm going to make it that easy. I don't think he gets the same dream trip today.
5th race at Aqueduct, maiden 40 claimers. They're scheduled on the turf at 8.5 furlongs.
10-4-2, the 13-14 are also eligibles. We have a couple first-time claim horses in here, but I am number 10, Carlin Clan, reported as gelded for the first time. Been 6 weeks since the last race. I can buy that. The race at Gulfstream Park, if you were to believe the teletimer, was far too deep of competition for my runner. Get a much softer pace today in the maiden claimers. For a second, number 4, please, baby. Rudy Rodriguez's horse. Handful of races, maiden special weights, has been coming down the claiming tag. This will be second time LASIK's, probably the right level, the 40,000. And for third, after a debut in maiden special weights, Union Tap, who I think is going to run much better than this 15-1, 10-4-2.
Race number 6, plain vanilla $10,000 claimers, 6 furlongs the trip.
5-8-7 for me, folks. And Midnight Charlie gets my top pick, throwing out the last start. Waters are too deep, running for the cheapest tag price on the PPs for me. I think is going to sit a very good trip here. Let the early speed horses, and I think we're going to have some pace today, bang it out. and Midnight Charlie sit and pick up the pieces, running for a dime today. For second, number 8, No More Talk. Well, that'll be a problem for me. This was an $8,000 claim down at Laurel. Ships up from the Mid-Atlantic for the first time. And for third, Magnificent Chrome, the 7-horse, second off the $16,000 claim, 587.
Race number 7 this afternoon. We are looking at state bred maiden specials going a mile and 16th on the grass.
A quick note, 13, 14, 15 AEs, 16 and MTO. So full field size for a turf race of 12 in here. And I have to negotiate the first turn, 11, 7, and 3. I've talked about this for not recently, but for a long time. The mile 16th races at the Big A, boy, I always thought perfect position was like 4, 5, and 6 when you come out of that bend. Inside was tough. 11 is going to be tough today, but I like the offspring of Looking at Lucky making the second career start. Debuted for Christophe Clement to a third-place finish in November. For a second, number 7, Jorge Abreu's horse, I don't think is going to be anywhere near this price. Now, has had only 2 starts since July 16th and only 1 since October 29th, but I think is going to fall into terrific position from the 7th post position and really be able to save ground and be forwardly placed. For third, number 3, you could have guessed it by the name that it is Klarovich. Inflationary Trend for Chad Brown. We'll see how low they bet this runner down to 11.73.
Race number 8, it's a starter allowance, 3/4 of a mile.
Somebody once asked me, how can you don't pick all Chad Brown horses on the turf? I go, well, he does lose 60% of them. 3, 5, 11 in this starter allowance. And this is one area where I think some of the trainers are starting to see how deep the waters are versus this restrictive claimers, 2L, 3L versus these starter allowances. Nolo Contesto for David Jacobson comes out of a restricted claiming race at Santa Anita. So you can see Jacobson getting this his barn ready. He's done this successfully before. This California ship in. They show good early speed, California type speed. For second, Bruce Levine's runner, number 5, off of a victory at a 40,000 seasonal debut. And for third, number 11 on the outside, Blinding Light, who I have to say, Seth, I almost pit on top, except Jeffrey Englehart's bar graph has been very diminutive for a while after being the Empire State Building. 3, 5, 11.
And we will wrap it up race number 9 about 5:30, a little after 5:30 this evening. Maiden specials going 6 on the grass.
And earlier you mentioned how much you like Kentharos as a stallion, and certainly understandable. What was it, like 3 for 3 lifetime? Steve Asmussen, right?
I think
he won maybe the Sanford and never ran again. But it turned out to be a very precocious stallion away.
Yeah.
5.76. Lexi Spirit going out for Mark Henning, making the 6th career start. Owner Lee Lewis. And when I see Mark this summer, I'm going to ask him, by the way, belated happy birthday, although I reached out to him on Twitter. I think he might have been his first or second customer, Lee Lewis. I believe that. I think this is a classic. Mark doesn't rush the horses, takes his time. We have a Kentharos. We have sprinting going 6. I think we have the right horse with Dylan Davis aboard. For second, number 7, Decanter. All wine fans will like this. Comes off a 3rd place debut on the dirt. Now this Kentharos gets to the turf. And for third, number 6, Accept the Outcome. Chad Brown's runner. I don't think you're getting 4-1. 5.76 as I look for the Kentharos Exacta in the finale.
All right. That brings us to the end of the Handicappers Report, top of the hour, racing across America.
Who do you have?
Jim Byers from
fan
Oak
favorite.
Lawn. It's a short field, but Clariere versus Secret Oath.
It's enough
in the Apple Blossom, but the sprint stake prior to that is very good. And
over
also,
the last 40 years, the Apple Blossoms annually been one of the 3 or 4 top filly or mare races. I mean, 40 years of being at the absolute top of Filly and Mares.
Also have John Piasek on from the Maryland Breeders. Fun day down at Laurel, highlighted by the Tessio. Tessio for the 3-year-old boys, the 3-year-old Philly stake as well. I want to say win and you're in, and that's not what it's called. And now it's win today and you're in May. They both play in the Preakness Day. The Tessio is an automatic to the Preakness, and the Philly side an automatic to Black-Eyed Susan. So they're coming up shortly. I'll also toss out. You were mentioning, or we were talking earlier about long shot winners and handicap and whatnot. Andrew Champagne, who used to write for the Saratogian, still involved in the industry and whatnot, and does a lot of writing online and Twitter.
Wood Memorial winner.
He tossed out the crazy big winner there. So good for him.
Absolutely.
Lord Miles, right?
Yep. Yeah. On the outside, winning the Bob. Absolutely. Yeah. He stays, I go. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the great weather. Enjoy the outstanding racing. We'll see you next time.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.